Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to my random horror review series. I am your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yes, episode 77 is here, and I thought for today we'd try something a little different. I've never actually done a double review on this series before, but I thought, since I watched this first film and there was a second bonus feature on here, which I actually had no intentions of even reviewing these films, but I watched them back to back and I thought, hell, you know what? I might as well just do reviews of these films. This is coming from Intervision, a brand new release from Intervision. I'm very happy I picked this up, and it's called Murderlust, and the second feature is called Project Nightmare, both directed by Donald Jones. Yeah, these films, Donald Jones, I'm actually not really even that familiar with Donald Jones whatsoever. Didn't really know of his work and stuff. I do know that Murderlust came out in 1986, and the second feature here, Project Nightmare, officially got released in 1987, but it's actually a film that was done in 1979, and I think got shelved or didn't get released until whatever, about 7-8 years later, so that's the deal with Project Nightmare. But we'll start with Murderlust here. Get into the premise or the synopsis of Murderlust. Basically, it follows our main character, Steve Belmont. He kind of lives two different lives. Now, Steve is a Sunday school teacher / counselor. Everybody loves him. He's a good-looking guy. He helps out with the youth counseling, and he's got a really great track record at this church and stuff, and he's a very believable guy. At nighttime, he is a sadistic serial killer. Steve is an interesting, complex guy because he actually has a day job during the week. He works at this track, and he's kind of got another personality too. He's like, he works at this track, and he's always late, and he's very vulgar, and he just has like a totally different personality at this track job that he has. But then come Sunday, he kind of flips it around, and then at nighttime, he kills. So what this film is basically just it's a character study of our main character, Steve. And so that's basically the premise of the film. So, my thoughts on this one. Now, this is actually a pretty interesting character study of this serial killer because they show a lot of different elements to him. Like I said in the synopsis, he's got many different type of personalities and stuff, and they're showcased quite well. There's lots of scenes of him, in the Sunday school teaching. There's lots of scenes of him at the track being, that kind of vulgar, lazy-ass employee that everybody hates. And then it shows, of course, him at nighttime stalking and strangling and killing his victims. Now, Steve he's a very interesting type guy because he's not a sexual predator. He's not killing, women for the sake of sexual pleasures. So he's not out there raping them and stuff. He just has a mommy complex, basically. He has a hatred for women. So what he does is he goes out and he picks up these women, which is very easy for him because, like I said, he's a very good-looking guy, and he kills them and he dumps them in the Mojave Desert. And he actually gets dubbed as the Mojave Strangler or something like that in the film, and he loves that and stuff. But it's a pretty cool character study because as all this stuff's going on, he gets fired from his job and he has this run-in with this girl at the Sunday school and stuff. Between all this stuff, there's a girl that he actually intends to kill in this film who actually turns out to really like him. They kind of spark up a relationship, which I think is a really interesting contrast and kind of a neat subplot for a film like this, because for a fact that he doesn't really want to be interested in her, and he kind of shows that, it never says straight up in this film that, he's not out for sex, but it's just kind of showcasing. She's trying to get it on with him and stuff, and he just keeps pushing her away and stuff. Very interesting scenes, and overall I thought the film was pretty good. I thought the acting wasn't bad for a majorly low budget type film, and I gotta say, I give credit to Donald Jones for not making the serial killer film with like excessive gore and stuff. He did it basically with story, and just everything you're seeing on screen is it's fascinating, and it's it's kind of disturbing in the sense that you don't get to see a lot more. It's just this really nice guy doing what he does best, is manipulating and killing women, and being pretty happy about it. So I thought that was pretty cool. There's really absolutely no blood, except for maybe the only blood you see in this film is actually on our main character at one point in the film, which is just fascinating to myself. But, my gripes on this film, I think it ran a little bit too long. It is a little bit monotonous at times with certain scenes, him going out and stalking women, dumping bodies. There's a lot of, shots of him driving in the desert and stuff, which I thought were pretty cool overhead shots and stuff, which you wouldn't probably expect to see in a film this low budget and stuff. But it does get a little bit monotonous with that. But there's enough subplots in this film that are interesting enough to keep the whole story kind of, flowing itself. yeah, not a bad film, not a bad film. If I had to rate this one, I'm going to give it about a 6.5 out of 10. I love these character studies. I've always been fascinated with serial killers, and this is just interesting because I love how it didn't just show two sides of him; it showed three sides of him. With his certain jobs and his serial killer, and actually kind of four sides. Him dealing with women and stuff when he has this hatred on, and some girls trying to get in his pants. It's really strange. Yeah, not a bad film. Murderlust from Intervision. So I give it about 6.5. Definitely give it a shot. So, but yeah, let's move on to the second one. All right, so moving along here, getting into Project Nightmare. Like I said before, this is a film that was finished and completed in 1979. It didn't get officially released until 1987, and you can tell that too, because when you're watching it, it doesn't look 80s at all. It looks very, very 70s. Project Nightmare is basically about these two guys that are out camping. They're older, like in their 40s or whatever, and they're out camping, and they get disturbed by this force. It basically kind of wakes them up, starts chasing them, so they seek refuge in this house where they meet this girl. And then also the force kind of follows them, and it keeps kind of like, it just won't leave them alone and stuff. Anyways, they find their way out way out in the desert and things like that, and this force just won't leave them alone. They're trying to figure out exactly what the hell is going on, because they cannot figure out for the life of them if they're dreaming it or whatever. And one thing leads to another, and they kind of find out that the government may be responsible for this force that has been following them around, but they still need to figure out exactly why they have been chosen, for whatever the government's doing, their government testing and stuff like that. My thoughts on this one: this is honestly one of the strangest films I think I've ever seen in my entire life. It's got such a strange approach. It has one of those approaches to the film where it's just right into the story. Like, these guys are already running from this force, and they're meeting this girl, and then things are happening and stuff, and then it's a very short film too. It only runs about 74 minutes, but everything's pretty normal up until about the third act, when one of the characters actually finds this plane, and he actually flies. Well, what they can see in the distance of one scene in this film, they can see where this force is kind of maybe originating from. Anyways, they come across this Cessna where one of the characters actually flies it over there, where they kind of get separated in the third act. One guy's out in the desert, and the other guy is, doing his thing, and he basically kind of discovers this undercover government project that's happening and stuff, and it literally kind of gets in his head and kind of goes from there. I don't want to ruin everything for you guys, but it is one of the strangest and oddest things I have seen in such a long time. I thought it was really cool. Some of the effects and stuff used in this are beyond laughable. Very, very funny stuff. I mean, it was obviously done in the late 70s and stuff. The computers and everything is pretty funny. The whole idea is actually pretty complex and pretty interesting. I have to admit that. Not really necessarily a full-blown horror film. It's more of like a sci-fi horror. It definitely feels like a huge nightmare as you're watching it. Very, very strange shit. Like, when the character, he discovers this little pyramid thing in the desert, and that's what leads him into this government agency thing. It's really odd, really strange. I definitely highly recommend watching it. Again, super, super low budget. I think the PQ actually on Project Nightmares might even be better than Murderlust, which is funny because it was done, 7-8 years prior. But overall, if I had to rate Project Nightmare, I'm going to give it about a 6 out of 10. Not like a mind-blowing film, but it was definitely worth the watch. I'm glad I did, because, man, I kind of, after I finished watching, I went, wow, that was interestingly odd and strange. It's just every adjective in the book to describe this one it's just an oddity. It's strictly an oddity film that you definitely got to check out once. But pretty cool double feature from Intervision here. Of course, Intervision is a sublabel of Severance, so definitely check this out, man. You pick it up. It's just brand new release, very, very cheap. So, but yeah, I'm pretty cool. Like, when I pre-ordered Murderlust, I didn't even realize that there was a second feature on here. So that's why I kind of got excited when I got this release, and I'm like, wow, there's a second feature, very cool, from the same director. And I'm always a big fan of when companies do this. They put a bonus feature by the same director and stuff, so you get to kind of sample out the guy's work more than once. But very cool stuff, man. Low budget. The PQ on here, not really overly the greatest. They kind of feel like they're, glorified, like widescreen VHS transfers. I don't know if you want to say it. It's not bad though. I was very, very surprised that there's actually commentaries on both these films. There's a commentary Murderlust from the writer and producer James C. Lane, and also for Project Nightmare for James C. Lane also, which is very interesting. So yeah, check out this double feature. I had a lot of fun with this. Like I said, Murderlust, a little bit too long, could have been edited down. Project Nightmare, probably maybe a little bit too short, I don't know. But maybe it was perfect for its length because it was just so mind-altering while I was watching. It was crazy, but yeah. Check this out, pretty cool double feature. That's going to do it for episode 77 here, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And I got a bunch of really cool movies and reviews coming up, so stay tuned. If you guys like the series, give it a thumbs up, or if you don't, give it a thumbs down. It is what it is. All right, guys, check you later. And as usual, peace!